Welcome, everybody, to the Hunter's Quest podcast. This is your host, Hunter McWaters. It is great, as always, to be with you. Not sure when this will drop, but probably I'm out in the field, maybe New Mexico or Montana, hunting elk. And so definitely keep me in your prayers and your thoughts. Hoping to fill some elk tags this year and really looking forward to that. I hope you guys are having a great season. Hope you had a great September. Whether you're going out for deer, elk, whatever you got going, I hope you guys are enjoying, having a great time, being safe, and doing what we love to do. So this week I have a really, really interesting conversation with Robbie KROGER from Blood Origins. And, he's been on quite a few podcasts, but I think we sort of hit it from a different angle. And then we actually kind of get into a little bit of a debate, which is great. Now, it was all in good, it was a really good conversation. He pushed back on me on a couple things. I pushed back on him on a couple things. It's an interesting conversation. It's a real conversation, and it's a good conversation. And, Blood Origins is an organization that's representing the truth around hunting and why we hunt. And, they're going after that 80% of folks in the middle. You've got your 10% who are anti and never going to have anything to do with hunting and hate you and whatever. Then you got 10% of hunters. Most people lie in that 80% region in the middle that could be swayed either way with, logical, loving arguments and, discussions and conversations. And we need guys like Robbie and Blood Origins to who are willing to engage the non-hunters and even engage the anti-hunters, and be that voice for truth in the space and not get emotional and not, freak out or whatever. So it's a really cool podcast, great conversation. Blood Origins is doing some great things to help conserve the rights of hunters. And, as you might hear in this conversation, me and Robbie probably fall a little bit different along the lines of some semantics and how we look at things, but that's fine. That's good. And we, like I said, we need guys like Robbie in the space talking to folks who aren't hunters. So it's a great conversation. I appreciate Robbie and Blood Origins and what they're doing. If you'd like to support them, check them out. You can search Blood Origins. And the information is kind of given at the end of the podcast where you can support what they're doing. It's important work. One way or another, if you're a hunter, you need to be involved in conservation, whether that's joining the Mule Deer Foundation, supporting things like Blood Origin. It's the antis are a very organized, consorted group, and they are working to take away our rights. So we need to kind of work together as hunters to display the truth and why we actually hunt and kind of sway the folks in the middle. So anyway, that's enough rambling from me. I want to thank my partners out there: Onyx Hunt, Loophole Optics, Seekins Precision, Barnes Bullets, Mountain Ops. Thank you guys for your support. If you need to pick up some supplements or some gear, go to Mountain Ops, use that code QUEST. You will save 20% and you will be supporting me. So if you like what I'm doing, please do that. Please also go to my YouTube channel if you haven't seen it yet. The mule deer hunt, backcountry, DIY, public land, all that good stuff. Deer hunt that me and Luke Duesenberry did together. Gosh, I keep messing up his name. I just put that on my YouTube recently. So we both shot our first ever mule deer bucks on a really tough hunt that I planned and e-scouted all from Virginia. It's a cool film. It's our first mule deer ever. We worked hard for them. They're not giants, but we were proud of them. And so it's a cool film. I hope you guys like it. I got more coming out in the weeks ahead, including a Mexico Coues deer hunt, this Montana mule deer hunt where I was able to hold out for a mature deer and get a nice buck on that one. And also, if you got Sportsman Channel, please check out the show, which airs Mondays at 11:30 a.m. Eastern and Saturdays at noon Eastern. Some great episodes coming down the line on there. And then, after they've kind of run their course on TV, then I'll start trickling out producers' cuts of the episodes on YouTube. But the first and best place you can check them out is on Sportsman Channel. And so hope you guys enjoy. Please go to YouTube, subscribe to the channel. That means a lot. Honestly, if there's one thing you could do for me to help me out that costs you no money at all, is just go subscribe to my YouTube channel. The more subscribers I have there, it's just easier to continue doing what I'm doing. Also, leave me a rating and review on Apple Podcasts. I'd really appreciate that. But really, if there's anything you can do, just go subscribe to the YouTube channel. That's the biggest help you can do for me right now. And use that code QUEST at Mountain Ops. I know you guys, a lot of you use their products. I use their products, obviously have for years. And, there's multiple different codes you could be using, but I'd appreciate your support. So that's enough for me. Thanks again, guys. Enjoy the rest of your hunting season. Enjoy this podcast. Stay safe, and we'll see you guys in the next one. All right, everybody. Welcome to the Hunter's Quest podcast. This is your host, Hunter McWaters. Today, I am joined by Robbie KROGER from Blood Origins. How you doing, man?
Good, man. Good. Humbled to be here. Thank you for the opportunity.
Oh yeah, man. Glad to have you, dude. I think you're the first South African guest I've ever had.
Well, it probably won't be the last. There's lots of South Africans everywhere, all throughout. Any little small town in America, you'll find a South African. So it's a little secret plan of ours that we're slowly taking over the world.
Yeah, I've had a couple South African friends, and I've been fortunate to travel a lot through the world, but I have not been to South Africa yet, although I would really love to.
Oh, it's an amazing, amazing country. There's obviously a little bit of crime, but that's in the big cities, and
yeah.
But the landscape is amazing. The wildlife's amazing. The people are amazing. People are friendly and just good people that love to work hard, but also like to play hard too when they get an opportunity. So,
do you go back a lot, or?
I not really, but now that I've taken Blood Origins on full time,
nice.
I'm almost finding myself in South Africa on an annual basis.
Okay.
And may even be like twice a year back there.
Okay.
There's just a lot of, South Africa is a almost jumping off point for people if they're interested in going to Africa to hunt. South Africa is the place to do it. There's just a lot of good things happening in hunting in South Africa that a lot of people haven't really showcased. So we were there like 2.5 years ago. Last year I was there and I'll go back this year in November, December timeframe. All of the professional hunters associations down there do their annual general meetings, their AGMs around November, December timeframe. It's almost the same way as like, mule deer have their, mule deer. I don't know if you know the Mule Deer Foundation itself, like the big foundation has a meeting.
Yes, the Western Hunt Expo is actually the Mule Deer Foundation.
Yeah, but is that their like? I don't know if they have their AGM then or whatnot. It's like I don't know when they have their big meeting, but anyway, it's just like that. RMEF, if RMEF was going to do a big meeting, that's what we go to South Africa for. So yeah, I get to go a little bit more nowadays and see some buddies and friends that I don't often get to see, only chat through WhatsApp. So
So you're full time in Blood Origins, huh?
Yeah, we started full time in January.
Nice, man. Congrats.
We've been building it for 5 years essentially, and we turned ourselves into a 501c3 nonprofit in the beginning of COVID. Probably not the best time to create a nonprofit, but we did, and it worked because I think we had already a brand, and we had a very good idea of who we were. And then we just, with the going to the nonprofit side, it almost allowed us to expand our content line in terms of what we did. Because prior to COVID, prior to us becoming a 501c3, we still do it today. It's our core mission, which is showcasing the heart of hunters. Like we do those stories about hunters' hearts, and that's probably how a lot of people got to know us, is telling stories of different people. But as we became a nonprofit, we sort of opened the door to different lines of content and different activism, education, advocacy type campaigns around benefits, impacts, consequences of hunting all around the world. We got into the conservation project game, so we implement directly conservation projects all over the planet: New Zealand, South Africa, Spain, Wyoming, Arizona. So yeah, it's been a wild ride, and the board of Blood Origins, we obviously run by a board, 6 individuals, very small board, and we purposely are that small to keep us nimble and without bureaucracy, essentially.
Yeah.
And we went through the whole process last year. Not many people understand. If you're not in the nonprofit game, you wouldn't really understand it, but you have to go through for any sort of like salary determination. You have to do a thing with the IRS called the reasonableness determination, which is you have to determine like how appropriate a salary will be for someone. And so you have to like look at all these different organizations by region, by national, by genre of what you're doing as a nonprofit. You have to do this big analysis, and then the board essentially voted on the reasonableness determination, and then luckily offered me the job. So
I would hope so.
yeah, here we go. Here we are. So it's been amazing. Since January, I've essentially had one job. For the last 5 years, I've had 2 jobs.
Yeah.
And now I've been able to really focus my efforts directly every single day, wake up, breathe, sort of live and breathe Blood Origins.
That's awesome, man.
So yeah, it's a great best job in the world.
Yeah, man. That's really cool that you were able to kind of design your dream life, and I'm sure it took, like you said, lots of years of work and doing 2 things at once. I know that. And so yeah, and so your other life, I guess you're a doctor, so I should have called you Dr.
Yeah.
KROGER.
Yeah, PhD. Yeah.
And I forgot I was going to say, how's it, mate, when you joined, but I forgot to.
There we go.
But yeah, you got your start doing wetlands ecology or biology, right?
Yep, I have a PhD in wetland ecology. I'm a restoration ecologist by training, so
Nice.
certainly helps from an acumen perspective in
Yeah.
the Blood Origins game to sort of I understand restoration ecology, I understand wildlife management.
Yeah, and how that relates to like government entities and stuff.
Yeah,
And I grew up on the Chesapeake Bay, so that's like
Okay.
wetlands are like a part of my DNA, man. Like I grew
water
up just in
quality
salt
in the
marshes
Chesapeake
and
is is number one issue in Chesapeake, right? And that's
yeah,
essentially what I worked on for 6 years, not Chesapeake, but water quality issues.
nice.
So yeah, I understand politics. I understand how things work in the real world. And I have a PhD, which helps in terms of, people tend to listen a little bit, I don't know, well or stronger, or I don't know, whatever you want to call it. If that the fact that I have a doctor in front of my name,
Yeah,
which
I mean,
certainly helps. But yeah, that was my life. I was a consultant, essentially restoration ecologist consultant. I was a professor in the wildlife fisheries department for a segment of my life. I worked for the BP oil spill for a segment of my life. And now the director of a nonprofit that's all around the world, essentially conveying the truth about hunting.
yeah, that's really cool, man. Okay, so obviously I've done a little research about, Blood Origins and you and stuff. And I don't want to spend a ton of time on this because there's a lot of podcasts where you kind of go into your background and what Blood Origins is. And essentially it boils down to a very simple thing. So, but for my listeners who don't know, if you give me just like a brief background of
Sure.
kind of just who you are and what Blood Origins is, but from the 10,000 foot kind of view.
Yeah, so as an organization, our mission is to convey the truth about hunting. We do that through the social media, digital media world that we live in today. We create content, documentaries, talking heads, infographics. You name it, we are creating content that is simply educating hunters and the non-hunting majority, hopefully more the non-hunting majority, about issues pertaining to hunting and changing the public perception around who hunters are.
So important.
And I started it because I've got 2 young boys and they want to get into hunting. I want them to get into hunting. I needed to communicate to them the why behind why we were doing it. I could communicate the biological why from an ecosystem perspective, but I couldn't really articulate to them like what my heart was saying because I'd never really been told why I hunted. I didn't grow up hunting with my father or my grandfather, though they both were very, very big hunters back in the day. They just stopped hunting
Hmm.
in Mozambique and South Africa. And then I looked at outdoor television and Sportsman's Channel and all the other outlets that you consume outdoor content in. And I couldn't find anyone really communicating essentially why we hunted. And there was a reason, not that I'm not getting onto anybody for not doing it. It just wasn't something that was what was in the forefront of anyone's brain because
Hmm.
number one, it's not a very good business model
Hmm.
for the outdoor space, especially if you're communicating content to a hunter, to the hunting community. The hunting community really, I really doesn't have really an appreciation of why. What
Yeah.
I was doing it for
Or
was,
they know already and they just want to watch hunts.
yeah, they want to watch hunts. They want to get,
Yeah.
excited about some adventure. And that's absolutely cool. I get excited about it too. I like to watch that kind of stuff. But I was
Yeah.
seeking something else.
Sure.
And I felt like if I was looking for it, there may be somebody else looking for it, number one. And then number two, if we could just communicate, like I was trying to communicate to my kids, if we could just communicate a different side of who we are, could we change perceptions? Could we change narratives away from, you guys are just a bunch of bloodlusting redneck killers?
Yeah.
And I think I said, yeah, I think we can. And we're proving that day in and day out right now in terms of changing perceptions. We get lots of people, I'll just give you a perfect example that's happening right now. Obviously, alligator season's about to come to a close. Some monster alligators have been taken in Mississippi and Florida,
Hmm.
and there's a little bit of buzz in the anti-hunting community about that. And there's two big antagonists really that live in the social media space that I'm constantly grappling with, constantly wrestling. One is called the Real Tarzan. He's got like 6.5 million followers on
Oh, wow.
Instagram, calls himself a scientist. And he posted a slew of pictures of big alligators. And his comment was, hit the like button if you dislike this. Send us a comment about how atrocious this is. So it's a full just engagement post, right? It's got nothing to do with anything. And so
Yeah.
we went on there and communicated why people are hunting alligators. And that did you know that alligators is probably the most successful conservation
Yeah.
story program in the United States? And it's only because of sustainable utilization through hunting, culling, and farming. And you have to get these big bull alligators out of the frame if you want to increase your population, because they don't allow younger females and males to create nests that are fertile.
Hmm.
And so it's just an education campaign, and we get tagged into it, and there's nobody else, literally no other hunting nonprofit organization living in that world,
Yeah.
putting educational, fact-based, honest comments in place. So for instance, one of
Mm.
the comments they came back was like, well, these guys are just doing it for fun. There's no, why would you do something for fun? And my response to that is, okay, some of these guys went out alligator hunting because it was fun. Let's get past that motivation for a
Yeah.
second
So what?
and just look at so what. I even think I said so what.
Yeah.
If alligators are prospering, if alligator populations are the highest they've ever been,
Yeah.
you've got a growing population that's sustainable for our kids and our grandkids to see one day. Isn't that what you want
Right.
from
Yeah.
an anti-hunting perspective? That's what we want from a hunting perspective.
Hmm.
You just hate the fact that somebody went out and killed that alligator. Okay, so what?
Yeah.
Move past it.
Right. And it's
Let's
a
look at the bigger
complex
picture.
thing. It's not because I've engaged with people before too. And first of all, I think it's so important that like you guys are like an actual like organization with that mission and goal. Because usually it's like individual hunters trying to like defend themselves, and especially as you start to get more and more kind of following or platform, the antis kind of start commenting on your stuff. And I've just started a little bit to get some of that, and but it's such a complex thing. It's not like, and that's another reason why I think a lot of people don't do it on on a sportsman channel or whatever, because it's a very complex thing. It's not just like for me, like I don't hunt just to kill things. but I'm not afraid to say that I like enjoy that part of the process too. Yeah, I do it for fun. I do it for sport. I also do it for meat. I do it for adventure. I do it for lots of reasons. It's not just a this or
Mm-hmm.
that. And I
Mm-hmm.
think they try to boil it down to,
Mm-hmm.
good versus bad, make it too simple, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, and look, at the end of the day, I'm not trying to change the real Tarzan's, outlook on hunting. He's never going to change because he's
Right.
making too much money posting stuff against hunting. But I know that 100,000 people maybe looked at my comment. Maybe 10,000 people read my comment. Um, and also the follow-ups. So a couple of things happened. Number one, I planted a bunch of seeds in a bunch of people's brains that were like, this guy makes a little bit of sense.
Yeah.
Number two, oh wow, this guy actually, knows his stuff, and he's being respectful in a dialogue back and forth. It's
Yes.
not
Yeah.
denigrating into name calling.
Yeah.
Um,
Because when you
I
get
did
that comment,
denigrate a little. I only denigrated when somebody said to me, well, he's a scientist. Where does he ever say he's a scientist? I said, dude, you clearly have never read his bio. Read
yeah.
his bio, and then you can apologize.
Yeah. It's so easy to want to like when you have one of those antis comment on your stuff. And like I said, sometimes they're just like freaks and you just have to ignore it. Sometimes you get those people. I just had one the other day where, my initial reaction was, oh, geez, it's about to be a fight. But I'm just like, no, I'm going to speak very calmly and respectfully and kindly to this person and explain my reasons and how,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it's 100 times more ethical than the modern meat industry if you eat any animal products whatsoever, and just et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And it's not just for sport. Yeah, that's part of it, but that's, I spent 2 days on the back end of my Alaska trip ensuring that my meat got home with me and it still tasted good. I didn't just leave it out in the field or,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. So if you can, like you said, dialogue in a healthy way and kind of be respectful, you can actually, you might not win them over, but it's not gonna hurt. It's not gonna help anything by just cussing them out or something.
Yeah, you've got to just think about the ramifications beyond the person you're engaging.
Yeah.
Who's watching you, because it'll blow your mind for you to understand and realize the people that are actually watching you. I've had people comment or DM me, and I'm like, you're watching. Okay. Okay. But they never interact. They never hit the like button. They never comment,
Yeah, they're just like subtle.
but they watch.
Like people in the hunting industry or people outside the
Both.
hunting outside the hunting.
Both.
Okay.
Both.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just on a podcast that are with a huge non-hunting influencer.
Yeah. Which one?
1.3 million on Instagram, 16.5 million on TikTok.
Whoa. Which one?
If everyone needs to just stop and Google Candy Ken,
Candy Kin. Okay.
that it'll blow your mind, and you'll be like, "Holy shit, Robbie, what the hell are you thinking?" Because he's a wild guy, dude. He wears pink and dresses and
Yeah.
um, doesn't give a flip
Right.
about what people think about him. But he is super intrigued about hunting.
Wow.
I was like, all right, let's have a conversation about it.
Yeah. I feel like there is space. Obviously, there's like your super woke people or whatever. They're just going to freak out anytime you mention hunting. But like, I do feel like, and maybe Joe Rogan kind of paved the way for some of it, or I don't know. I feel like there is space in some people's minds, the more logical, rational ones, if you know how to defend hunting well and correctly, there is space that like some of them will actually kind of okay, that makes sense. You know what I mean?
Oh no,
So
100%.
I'm proud of you, man. Good job going in there. Like we should be able to talk to these people about this stuff.
Yeah, and I think again, the part of the mission of Blood Origins is to convey the truth about hunting, and it's conveying it to the general hunting majority as well, so that the next time we have someone say something on your social media, you hunter, somebody says something on you, or see you have the confidence. Number one,
Mm-hmm.
because oftentimes people don't have the confidence to respond. Two, they have confidence because they know the data, they know the facts, and they know how to interact with that individual because they've watched us do it. And they're like, oh, if Robbie can do it, we can do that.
Mm-hmm.
We can. And I don't know how many times it happens now. They'll go in they'll say what they have to say, and then they'll say, if you want any more information, go check out Blood Origins.
Oh,
And
cool.
so we get slapped in there a lot.
Yeah.
So, we look at our social media feed is like, you look at our engagement and interactions, we're constantly engaging 85% to 90% of accounts that don't follow us, which
Yeah.
is exactly what we want constantly.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, it's so good, man. We need like more of this like consorted effort, organized, because they're organized and
Oh man. Yeah.
and we got to do it with love. Everything we're talking about reminds me so much of like sharing the gospel with people too.
Mm-hmm.
It's so similar, like be ready in season and out of season to give a explanation for the hope that's inside of you.
Yeah, you gotta have your elevator pitch ready. Your
Mm-hmm.
2 minutes, you got 2 minutes in the elevator with someone, they're like, oh, what are you doing? You're like, oh, you're a hunter.
Yeah.
Happens to me all the time in airplanes a lot. Like, what do you
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
Oh, I run a non-profit that conveys the truth about hunting. And more often than not, the response that comes back to me is like, the positive side? Like, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's either like someone who is a negative against it, but then there's others that are hunters saying the positive side. Like they
Yeah.
think that you're actually an anti.
Right.
Um, so yeah, you've got to have that thing ready. And
For sure.
again, just the examples that we give from all around the world, you know, wildlife changes, people changes,
Mm-hmm.
life changes because of the impact of hunting. It's difficult to argue with those kinds of examples.
It is. So, Blood Origins conveys the truth around hunting.
Mm-hmm.
What is your truth around hunting?
Oh, my truth.
Like, if I was doing a Blood Origins on you, what would you talk about?
Yeah, it's funny. I did that. The first episode, the first piece of content we ever released was my story. It was around a campfire in the middle of the Mississippi summer in a cow pasture at night because we had to simulate what Africa was like. Um, and I guess if I had to redo it today,
Yeah, has it?
it'd be a
It's got
very
to have changed, probably, right?
yeah, definitely has
It's a
changed.
journey.
Definitely has changed. So yeah, my why, my truth has evolved more and more. Like nowadays, it would be more tied to that engagement side of things, like building relationships with people that may not have the same mindset or same background as you, cultural heritage that you have, and allowing them to see this thing that you love so much and why you love it so much. Um, I think I've answered this a little differently in different places, but it all comes down to, I guess, different hunts hit different whys and different truths for
For
me.
sure. Yeah. True.
The dove hunt that I took my kids on 2 weeks ago was just my two boys, myself, and the dog.
Yeah.
And to me, nobody was in camo. We had red Pokemon shirts and green Crocs, and the dog. Everything was, big old mist on the grounds. The dog was sopping wet, completely sopping wet. But my oldest killed his first dove
Awesome.
with his 410. It wasn't flying, was shooting. He shot it off the power line. But that's fine. I used to shoot things sitting, and that's how you learn. And he was so excited about it, and that was so cool for me, and the littlest one trying to shoot a dove out of the tree, and we think he hit it, we don't know if he hit it, kind of thing. But just them, and then taking them to Waffle House afterwards. So to me, that why is I'm forging memories and a bond with my boys that I never had the opportunity to have with my father. So changing things there. Then, there's going all over the world and going to New Zealand and tar hunting in New Zealand and developing a relationship with, a guy there that is one of the stalwarts of hunter-led conservation efforts in New Zealand. And spending 3 days with him, getting to know him better, but then also just testing your mettle against essentially Middle Earth type landscape. I'm going to sneeze. Hold on 2 seconds.
No, it's okay. No, I've heard crazy things about New Zealand, man. That's like on my bucket list. I've had friends that have like almost died there.
Yeah, and it's like he, on the spotting scope, he looking at a tar and going, oh, that's where we're going. And I'm like, well, like, how do we get there?
Like, yeah.
He goes, we're going to go up this side of this mountain, then drop down over here, go up there, drop down, and then get over there. And I'm like, okay, they're still going to be there? He's like, yeah, they'll still be there. Four and a
Wow.
half hours later, 2,500 foot, 3,000 foot of climbing was brutal.
Wow.
But it was almost like the test that you wanted, right? It was the
Yeah.
adventure that you wanted. So that was the why for
Were they
that.
still there?
Oh yeah. Yeah, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it was a great hunt. It was a great hunt. And then the pack the pack out was because we were in such a spot then, and we had to hike, we had to go all the way to the top ridge, then come back down around.
Yeah.
And it was like it was so steep that you were pulling yourself up by these grass tussocks. And it almost was like every 100 meters, not even, maybe 100 feet, 200 feet, that I just could not go any further. My legs were on fire. I don't know. And I didn't have a heavy pack. Other guys in my group had much heavier packs than me.
Yeah.
But I had 50, 60 pounds maybe on my back, 60, maybe 70. I don't know, maybe heavier. But it was the steepness
Yes.
of it. And
Steepness matters.
holy
Big time.
smokes, man. And look, I live in Tennessee. There's no
Oh, okay.
steepness here.
Oh, I thought you
Okay,
were Mississippi. You moved, huh?
yeah, we moved last June. We
Okay.
moved to Memphis last June.
Cool.
But there's no replicating that steepness here. So even though you think you're in okay shape,
Yeah.
that going up and then going down.
Down is the worst for me. It's just like stressful. Like you think you're gonna die. I can deal with like
six
yeah.
times.
Oh, dude,
Easy.
going down is worse for me mentally.
And was far. Like you could you could see the hut the entire time, and it was a speck in the valley floor. But it was brilliant. So that's sort of my truth there. My why there was all based around doing something I didn't think I'd ever do, testing myself, but then also, again, I think a big part of it is relationships and meeting people of similar ethos, similar authenticity, learning about their stories. And I think a lot of people in the hunting space really, really like that part of it.
Yeah.
They really like the camaraderie part of it, the meeting new people, doing new things, becoming friends with people that, within 24 hours, 36 hours that you've never, known from a bar or soap before.
Yeah. Isn't that weird? I was talking to somebody just the other day about like getting off an airplane, meeting someone for the first time ever, and then spending like 9 days 24/7 with that person. It's so wild.
Yeah. And you become, obviously depends on the person, but more often than not, you become fast friends for life.
Yeah. Yeah.
And, you never knew that you needed someone like that in your life. Yet they are cherished as a friend. So yeah, that's my truth. It's it's not overly convoluted. It's not overly emotional. I get a little bit of spirituality out of it, not a tremendous amount. Maybe because I just don't get to do it as much as I used to and would like to.
Yeah.
But we're trying to figure out balance in life right now. We're trying to figure out opportunities to hunt more, especially with my kids now living in a part of the country that now hunting is a little bit more accessible to me. I lived on the coast of Mississippi for 9 years, and that was good hunting was a good 4 hours away. So now we're in good hunting country again. So yeah, I'm excited for whitetail season to be able to shoot a deer in front of the kids. See if the kids are even interested in shooting a deer. I don't know. We're not going to push them. We're just going to take that first step and see what happens.
Yeah. So you mentioned spirituality, and that's kind of one of the themes of the podcast here. I see us as triune beings, spirit, soul, and body, and I feel like there's a lot of talk in the hunting space about mental toughness and physical fitness, not as much about the spirit, and I feel like a lot of guys neglect that, and then they get up on a hunt somewhere and they're like depressed and they're about to call it quits. They don't know why. It's because they've been in the weight room and developing their mental toughness for 2 years, but they have no connection to God whatsoever. And that connection has saved me literally and figuratively a couple times. Um, so I don't know I believe, having listened to a couple of your podcasts, that you're a Christian.
Sure. Yeah.
What's the role of faith in your life, and how does that interplay with your hunting and blood origins and all that?
Yeah, I'm certainly a believer, certainly am Christian. Our family is part of, I would say, I don't know if you've been attuned to the whole great de-churching. Have you heard of that?
No.
Currently, that's happening in the US. So if there's a book, a very good friend of mine, he's a pastor, a guy called Jim Davis, wrote a book called The Great De-churching.
Hmm.
And if you just do some Googling, you'll figure out that like half the American population that used to attend church does not any longer.
Yep. And the
And so,
pandemic probably had something to do with that.
yeah, it did. And
We were already going that way anyway, but the pandemic
plus
really
plus
helped.
there's a bunch of online options now, right? You can go
Yeah.
to you can attend a service through your living room.
Yeah.
Um,
And just the model of church hasn't changed in so long. And like, even for me, I used to work full time at a church. I get it. It feels a little, I don't know, something doesn't feel quite there for people my age. I don't know what it is exactly.
yeah, I don't know what it is. I'm a part of it. Right? We don't go to church. We don't attend church anymore. Doesn't mean that we're not Christians any longer. We just weren't getting what we needed out of it, and we just have never gone back. But from a hunting adventure, being in places, there's certainly there's something to be said about being in a place, being still, being quiet, and whether you're religious or not, whether you believe in a higher power or not, whether you believe in the creator or not, there's certainly something awe-inspiring in those moments that you're sitting there looking, listening, believing. um and to me, that's me getting as close to the creator as I possibly can. Because there's very rarely in times today, especially in the digital media world that we live in, and in the world that Blood Origins lives in, that I'm constantly engaged. Like,
Yeah.
I do not have a free second. Like, you should see my phone when I wake up at 4:30 in the morning, because I've got an underground network all around the world. And so if people are getting a hold of us, they're getting a hold of us through every single platform you can imagine, including text messages,
Underground network
voicemails,
for what?
just for things happening in the,
Like,
the background, in the space. Um, the it's just like, you need people on the inside. I'll say that have their ears to the ground, ears to the network.
mm-hmm.
Hey, did you see this? Hey,
Gotcha.
FYI, this is coming. Hey, for instance, the Colorado mountain lion ban
Oh
that's
yeah.
coming, the ballot initiative that's 2024. We were in conversations with folks. We knew that was coming. We knew it was coming. So, yeah, that's going to be a terrible thing. It's not going to be terrible. It is a terrible thing, but we've got plans, and we're going to push, and we've got opportunities to push back that we haven't ever had before.
Yep.
Um,
Okay. Gotcha.
but yeah, to me, getting closer to the creator in times of such busyness and such noisiness
Mm-hmm.
is well intended, and the only place I can do that really is when I go out hunting.
For sure. Yeah, it's like everything in the world is designed to distract you from that still small voice, which is how God normally communicates. And
Yeah,
that's
and I've
intentional, I
started.
think,
Yeah, and it's intentional, and I've also started listening more to that little voice in the back of my head.
for
I
sure.
didn't I didn't typically pay attention to that voice.
Yeah. And I
But
try
that
to even
voice.
carve out time in my day-to-day life to listen. Like, sometimes prayer isn't blah, 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 blah. Sometimes prayer is keep your mouth
Mm-hmm,
shut and listening.
mm-hmm, yeah, it's certainly, I know a lot of this happens to everyone. I've started intentionally um doing it, which is, when somebody just comes across your brain, like
Yeah.
somebody right then and there, I'll send a text message.
Yeah, that's good. Mm-hmm.
Because it's like, why did I think of that person? Like, why did that person just pop into my brain?
Mm-hmm.
And who knows what comes from it? They maybe that,
Absolutely.
I've had many times like, oh man, thank you so much for reaching out. You don't know what's going on in my life, but I really appreciate you reaching out right now. Yeah.
100%.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that, man. That's good. And sorry, I got different ideas of where to take it, but
No, go ahead.
so talking this is something I've been thinking about lately a lot is and you live in the world of engaging because most of the population there's like the 10% who hunt, there's the 10% who hate hunters, will never be convinced either way, and then there's the 80% which don't hunt but could probably be swayed either way depending on who they
Right.
talk to. And
Right.
so you're living in the world of how do we
The
talk to
80%.
those? Yeah, how do we
Yep.
talk to those? How do we get them onto the truth about hunting? Um,
Yep.
and I think shows like Meat Eater have done a great job
Amazing job. Yep.
of being able to, in a succinct way, show a different why, not sport. On top of sport, and also making a show that is palatable to non-hunters, but also still pretty cool to watch if you are a hunter as well. It's pretty hard to do. Um, and then I've also seen certain companies in the space linking up more and more with some companies that are traditionally like pretty anti
Mm-hmm.
and making some creative decisions in hunt films that are for just like intentionally not showing a kill shot or like barely showing like the tips of antlers after the kill shot or like
Mm-hmm.
almost like diminishing that aspect. And it's not like I'm obsessed with let's see all I don't want to see, I don't need to see like blood, whatever, you got to be respectful of the animal, of course, and all that. But I'm wondering how you feel about it. I've been asking a lot of guests about this lately. Like, is there a pendulum swing kind of going a little, or could it be going a little bit too far in the direction of sanitizing it too much or being too scared to talk about not being I enjoy the killing part or whatever it may be. Like even
Well,
something inside of me
I
kind
don't
of
think
cringes a little
anybody
bit.
enjoys the killing part.
I
So
do.
let's you really do
Yes.
the killing. Okay,
Yes.
so why
The
don't let
moment
me
when
ask
I
you a
have that
question.
animal in my crosshair
Okay,
and I'm about to shoot it, I mean, I like that. What I don't
so
understand how you wouldn't.
why don't you volunteer your services at the local abattoir then?
At the what?
At the local butcher that is slaughtering
Because it's
chickens and slaughtering beef and whatnots.
because
If you like killing,
it's not.
still killing.
I have okay. I have actually slaughtered a lamb, a sheep, like was laying there tied up. I did not like that. Okay, so it's
Okay.
not. I did it and we ate it and it was fine, but I was not like happy to go cut this sheep's throat. So
So
it's not that.
in the moment when you say you're about to pull the trigger
Mm-hmm.
and you are happy about it,
Yeah, I'm.
are
I guess
you
it's more
happy because you're killing the animal, or are you happy because you've worked your ass off to get yourself in the position to be able to fulfill the purpose of the hunt?
right. It's more complex than just like I like killing the thing.
But you said I like killing.
I do. That's part of it.
Mm,
I'm not like, oh, I'm out here and I'm going to harvest this animal and I'm so sad when I see it. Like, I'm not. Like, I am there to fill my tag, which you can say it,
that's correct.
harvest, fill tag, whatever. You can also say to kill an animal. I'm just
Correct.
not afraid to say that I'm not like sad about it or whatever. I'm not like sadistic. I don't like torturing stuff. I didn't like cutting that sheep's throat, but I'm not going to sit here and say I don't like killing when I love to hunt because killing is a huge part of hunting.
Well, no, killing is part of hunting, right? That's why that's the difference
Right.
between hunting and hiking. Okay.
Exactly.
Um, I'm purposely pushing here because I believe that the kill is a part of the process. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
It is 1% of the entire activity. And so when someone says, I like killing, it diminishes the 99% to that 1%. Okay. So I also truly believe that everyone, you may not recognize it or not, but that thousandth of a second after you have decided to take that animal's life, and you do, and you execute it properly or badly, there is remorse in some shape or fashion. You may not recognize it. You may not see it. You may not, some people cry. Some people are like, oh man, did I really need to do that? Have that one question. Other people may not even recognize it, may not even realize it. But I think if you walk up on that animal at one point in time, what makes us human is that there is a little bit of empathy tied in with everything that we do when it comes to taking the life of an animal. Because otherwise, it puts us in a completely different realm of individuals.
Yeah.
Again, I think there's a massive gradient in terms of that sadness, maybe not remorse. Remorse probably is the wrong term. I'll say sadness. Acknowledgement of the taking of that life, of killing that animal.
I guess to me it would be more like respect.
Respect, you could couch it as respect as well. But to me, there's something in that gradient of whatever descriptor you want to call it, that someone feels that for the last 20, 30, 40 years, we have been told that's not something that we should show as hunters. And then you've also got a gradient of hunters that go from someone who is super emotional in that moment, whether it's the trigger moment or walking up on the animal moment, to others that don't feel anything. And when I say don't feel anything, I feel like there's always something there, but they just they would not say that I felt anything.
Yeah. I guess I just don't completely understand the pushback on me saying, I know it sounds, like I said, in this like culture and day and age and stuff, it probably sounds really crass to say like I enjoy the kill. But I just feel like we're getting to the point where hunters have to feel embarrassed to say that. But you said it yourself, like if we weren't there to kill, we would just be bird watchers, and we're not. And so on some level, I would say all hunters enjoy killing on some level because they're doing it.
Well, it's the enjoyment again comes down to the fulfillment of the action.
For sure. And like you said, and I totally agree with you that is 1%. Like when if I just enjoyed killing, I'd be, like I said, I'd go to the butcher, or I would sit in my backyard and shoot the deer that are in my backyard. But instead I plan these huge adventures to Alaska, which, 1%, like you said, or like probably 0.03% of that whole process is the kill. But
and the enjoyment level of an Alaskan trip is elevated because of the adventure that it is, not because the kill is any different.
Right.
Okay. And so you say, well, I don't get the pushback on someone saying, when you say I like killing, the pushback is because today's day and age, perception is 9/10 of reality. And you don't get a second chance in social media when a hunter gets on social media and says, I like killing.
Right. Which is why I'm very careful about the context in which I say that. And I know this is part of a longer conversation. Like I would never say like publicly, openly on so Instagram, I love killing. Like that's different.
Did on a public podcast.
Yeah, well, people know me. I mean, and like I said, this is a longer conversation.
Yeah. I get it.
But I don't think
this is what I do.
Right, and I am pushing back too because I personally don't feel that within the proper context I should be afraid to say that I enjoy the killing part. I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know.
Yeah, again, what I'll come back to is you have to have the proper context.
100%.
In that in any hunt, for a hunt to be successful, and here's, someone will say a hunt can be successful in multiple different ways. You don't have to kill for a hunt to be successful. You probably do, because the reason you're hunting is the goal is to take an animal, to kill an animal, harvest an animal, whatever you want to call it. And so that hunt is successful because you took that animal. Hunting, though, by definition, is catch and pursuit.
Right. It's the pursuit.
And it has failure built into it.
Yes.
That is why it's called hunting and not killing.
Right.
So the idea that in the moment that when you take that animal's life, you enjoy the moment because it's the culmination of the purpose of why you're there. You're enjoying it because of the entire process.
Yeah.
You're not just enjoying it because you enjoyed pulling the trigger and killing that animal.
That's true.
And
but
there's also ways to test that. All right. There's ways to test that. So number one, we have statistics. Take the biggest demographic of hunters in the entire United States, which is whitetail hunters. And you look at license demographics of those whitetail hunters, and you ask them by survey, how many deer do you take a year? Or what's the percentage of that population that takes one deer a year on those licenses? The percentage is like 49%. Okay. Which says that it can't be all about quote unquote killing. In Canada, it's 36%.
Oh, totally. It's not.
To take a second deer in Canada, it's less than 1%.
Yeah.
So the data, the science says otherwise. Number two,
it's not about the killing. I'm not making the argument that it's about the killing. I'm just making the argument that, as you said, it's the culmination of the process, but it is part of the process, which I still enjoy.
The second example I'll give is if you go to a place like Australia or New Zealand, where there are deer are, non-native, invasive, need management, need culling, or go to a place in Texas that needs 100 does killed a year. I can guarantee you, after killing your 6th doe of the day, you're done killing. You are like, I do not want to do this anymore.
Right, because that's not hunting. That's culling, killing, whatever.
It's still out there in the moment doing what you're doing.
Yeah, true.
So anyway, it all comes down to context. Yeah. It all comes down to semantics and being able to talk through with someone who says, all you guys are interested in doing is killing things.
Right. 100%.
And I think the answer to that question is no, that's not true.
Right. Because of what you just said. If that were the case, I would go work at a slaughterhouse or something. Or whatever. That's an extreme example, but
whatever. Yeah. But it isn't. It isn't an extreme example, because if it was that psychopath nature of I enjoy the bloodbath that comes from killing,
right,
which is what they're hearing,
right? Yeah,
when they hear someone say I enjoy killing, then it's not.
Yeah.
No, and if it was, then you'd get that kick somewhere else. You wouldn't. And here's the last thing I'll say. Here's another example. You wouldn't. I don't know how much it costs you to go to Alaska to hunt what you hunted. It wouldn't cost you. You wouldn't spend $15,000 for the chance of killing something. If you truly in your heart believe that I like killing.
Wait, I don't follow. You're saying you would not spend, you would not invest.
So I'll if it was truly all about me just enjoying the act of killing.
Oh, exactly. Right. I would go to some high fence place where I could just sit there and just snipe stuff all day, or like go shoot hogs out of a helicopter, which I'm not saying are wrong. I'm just saying, right. The evidenced by the fact that, like I said, if I really only was motivated by killing, I would not fly all that way, like have to pack raft myself out of the mountains, like do all this stuff it's obviously it's about the journey, it's about the camaraderie, it's about the adventure, it's the outdoors, it's the challenge, it's the being in that place, and also the killing.
Yeah, it's no, it is. It's a paradox
Mm-hmm.
that we have to wrestle with, because it's the climax of the activity, but it's also the anticlimax of the activity,
Mm-hmm.
because it's the end.
Yeah,
It's finished. You don't get to hunt anymore. It's what you fulfilled, you know?
true.
So yeah,
But then
it's
also you get to, take that meat home, enjoy it with your family.
yep,
There's a process after the kill as well.
100%.
Um, so I think we're on the same wavelength. It's just like I just said it probably in a very what's perceived by most people, especially in the world that you live in most of the time, a very harsh way of saying it.
Yeah, and words matter.
True.
Language matters in the
Right.
social media world, or
Oh, totally. Like I
in
said, if I was
anything, in
talking to
anything, right?
if I was talking one of those 80 percenters in the middle or an anti, I wouldn't say, yeah, I like killing. But in certain contexts, this being one, I'm just not afraid to recognize that as a part of the process. And I don't feel like I have to be shy about saying, like I said, context matters, words matter. In this context, I don't think I need to be shy about saying that. But in certain contexts, you have to absolutely not want to say that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm with you on that for sure. But that was great conversation.
Oh, I think about this stuff all the time, man, and I have conversations with people all the time, and I probably the biggest criticism that we've received at Blood Origins is that we are pandering
Mm,
to the non-hunting majority. We're afraid to call it killing. We are vilifying the idea of hunting, and I'm like, we're not. We're just thinking a little deeper about it so
yeah,
that we can communicate it in a different way
for sure.
to someone that doesn't understand.
And we need those voices. We have plenty of, to be frank, guys like me talking to hunters. We need voices like yours that are a little bit more refined, maybe, than mine, obviously.
Better accent,
And yeah,
better.
to talk to dudes wearing dresses because we need to get the message of hunting out to everybody, and why we do it. And it is not just about killing. Because like you said, it's not. It's so I applaud you.
But it is the thing that separates us from hiking.
100%. Yeah.
Okay,
I
so
mean,
it's you have to acknowledge it.
yes.
You have to nail it, hit it on the nail, and then say, okay, but let's step back and let's really think about it. Let's really talk about it. Let's really, give you situational examples around it. And at the end of the day, you also have to be honest and say there are people out there, hunters, that do truly enjoy killing as many things as they possibly can. And they do not enjoy the they're not there for the process.
Yeah.
They're not there for the adventure.
Mm-hmm.
And that's okay to acknowledge too.
Yeah.
But that's like, and that's unfortunately the broad paintbrush that gets painted across all of the hunting community. Just like
Yeah.
steroid use in baseball, not all baseball players use steroids.
Yeah.
Certain players do.
Yeah.
Not
And
everybody drink drives. Certain people do. It doesn't mean that everyone should stop driving.
yeah. And it goes back to your example too. I mean, different hunts are different. I mean, it's a little bit different conversation if we're talking about one caribou in Alaska versus 15 dove because I mean,
Oh yeah,
when
and then
you're
you break
dove
in the whole,
shooting,
like, yeah,
that is the fun of it is shooting doves. Like you can't make any excuse.
yeah.
Anyway, but
And you bring in the whole like charismaticness of certain species of animals,
mm-hmm.
especially in the predator realm, right? Mountain lions, bears,
Right,
lions in
wolves.
Africa, wolves,
Yeah.
elephants.
Have
Then
you
it's just totally different.
have you done a podcast or talked to Cable Smith from Lone Star Outdoor Show at all?
Yeah, way back in the day. Cable and
Okay.
I connected on a couple of podcasts.
Okay. I bet that was interesting. Um, but anyway, man, this has been great. One random, totally changing gears here, but I was thinking about the
Hmm.
name Blood Origins and like something
Yeah.
I feel like we've lost in our culture. And of course, I kind of cycle everything to a biblical worldview. Is like one of the main commandments God gave to His people that stuck with that the church even into the New Covenant and the New Testament is not to eat blood, and that how the life is in the blood of a creature. And like
Hmm.
that was very much a huge concept back then, that like now I feel like people kind of perceive like your life is in your brain or your heart or whatever, but like
Hmm.
to them like blood was life, and obviously has big significance as far as like sacrifices in the Old Testament, and then Jesus' blood, which is talked about a lot. So I don't know, did that concept play into your naming of your organization at all, or what do you think
No,
about
not
that?
really. A lot of people like look at Blood Origins and they're like, "Oh, scary! Like you guys, there's blood and killing, and like we've just been talking about spilling blood." And I'm like, "No, not really. Blood is inherent to all living creatures, human, mammals, birds, um, and it to your point, it's what makes us live. Okay,
Right.
um, but it's also what makes us up. And when I say makes us up, it's what created you. It's what creates me. It has DNA built in it that is makes you who you are. And that DNA that's in your blood right now was made from a whole lineage of people back in the day that at one point or another intersected with probably a hunter, whether that was in your lineage or someone else's lineage that helped your lineage survive because of
Oh
being
yeah.
a hunter. And so the blood component of Blood Origins is simply who we are. Um, that
Hmm.
is that's what makes you. That's what keeps you alive. It's what keeps animals alive. And the origins part is who you are is made up of what's come before you.
Yeah.
It's the people before you, the origins of who you are, the grandfather, the grandmother, the great 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 aunt or great
Yeah.
great great uncle. That's that's what Blood Origins really sort of is formed around. Is this idea that there's an ancestry, a tribalness, an archaicness to who we are. It
Hmm.
may not You may not recognize it in the modern day and age as we are so disconnected from it all. But again, put yourself in the bush, put yourself in the woods for 3 4 5 days. You'll find that
You'll find out who you
origins,
are. Yeah.
you'll find out who you are very, very quickly.
For sure, man.
And more than often, it's going to become that you are going to become a hunter
Yeah.
to feed yourself and to, take care of yourself and to sustain yourself. So that's really Blood Origins. I've
Okay.
had lots of conversations in my brain and in my mind of changing the name,
Nah, that's good. I like it.
but it's almost like it's who we are, it's our brand identity,
Yeah.
and it fits with, if you again take hunting at face value without any context, I get why people hate it. Take the name Blood Origins at face value and you can make up all sorts of things.
Hmm.
But dig a little deeper and you'll find the truth.
Yeah. Interesting, man. Um, Okay, other than the mountain lion thing right now happening in
Mm.
Colorado, are there any other like big hot issues that hunters should know about right now and get involved with
Um,
that you want to plug
Obviously
or anything?
the legislature isn't in play right now, so that's when the
Yeah,
big topics typically
gotcha.
come up in the US. Um, we know something's going to happen in New Mexico probably around E plus next year. Um, it'll be interesting to see where else the mountain lion black bear issue pops up again. New Jersey seems to have reversed itself completely. The governor has just put in place a commission and a statement that is like they have reversed the bear hunting ban for the next 5 years, essentially. So bear hunting is back in New Jersey.
Nice.
Victoria, Australia is a big battlefield right now for duck hunting in Australia, in southern Australia. They just had
Man,
an
the
inquiry
Aussies are
commission.
they're
Yeah,
tough, man. They are very
the
anti.
greens down in Australia are strong, and the
Yeah,
reason they're
man.
strong is because of the government system in Australia. It's not a one party system like we have in the United States. They build coalition governments down there. So, for instance, Labor had 35 seats. They won 35 seats in the election. They need 50 seats to have a majority to then be able to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
And so they say, oh, Greens, you have 10 seats. Come onto our coalition government.
Gotcha. Yeah.
And then there's um, politics at play. Oh, we're going to give you this. We're going to give you that.
Yeah.
And duck hunting was one of the things that were one of the concessions.
Jeez.
And
Sorry. I
go
didn't cut
ahead.
you. I was like, do you think New Zealand will stay like the kind of hunting mecca it is for a while, or do you think that's in jeopardy? Or
Australia and New Zealand are always going to be hunting meccas, just because of the abundant resource that is there and the variety of resource. But there's always going to be pushes. Like the other thing I was going to say, the third thing that I know is coming down the pipeline is there's an equivalent to Humane Society in New Zealand is an organization called Forest and Bird, and I've seen a letter already that indicates that they are coming after deer management at the department level, Department of Environmental, at DEFRA. DEFRA is their environmental agency federally, and DEFRA has a sort of collaborative relationship with the Game Animal Council, which is called GAC, and they're coming after that relationship, and then they're starting to point fingers at the lack of management of, they call them feral deer species. And they point out that probably this shining star for deer management in Southern Hemisphere, which is the Fiordland Wapiti Foundation, in which they manage for biodiversity. So they take out a bunch of deer every year, quantity wise, to ensure that they're hitting the government regulations to maximize biodiversity. They're doing trap lines on the landscape in a phenomenal quantity to protect native birds, and their native bird populations are going through the roof in terms of the data coming back. And two, they've managed for trophy quality, and so they've created this value for people to come hunt this area to generate funding, to help with trap lines and whatnots. And it's an absolutely amazing system that they've put in place, that they've managed to put in place, that they've arrested control away from the government to say, we're going to manage this. And it's called a wapiti herd, which is a blend between elk and a red stag. And those elk were gifted to New Zealand back in 1905 by Teddy Roosevelt.
Nice.
Anyway, so that's coming down the pipeline too.
Okay. Random Teddy Roosevelt story. I was at this park recently here. I live near Washington, D.C., and like they had in the park like little office thing. I took my kids to the bathroom in there. They had like this huge set of elk antlers, and when I picked them up, I was like, "Yeah, what's the story behind these?" They're like, "Oh yeah, the Smithsonian gave us those. Those were killed by Theodore Roosevelt." And I was like, "What?"
Man.
Yeah, they're just like, and then there was a moose in there too. He also shot. I was like, "Wow, that's cool." But anyway, well, cool, man. This has been a great conversation. There's one. No, that was it. Anyway, where can people find you if they want to hear more about what you got going on and support what you got going on?
Yeah, just go bloodorigins.org. We have multiple avenues by which you can engage us there. If you want to become a supporter of Blood Origins for the cost of a cup of coffee a month, currently the entry level is $3 a month. We're going to get that up to $5 probably here in the next couple of months. But super simple, easy way, support us to do what we do every single day on a monthly basis. And if you're not just going to do it out the goodness of your heart, you also get entered into monthly giveaways that you can win all sorts of stuff. I don't know when this podcast will drop, but if in the month of September, We gave away a VTM bow from Hoyt.
Nice.
We gave a long range shooting school with outdoor solutions $2,800 worth of gear from First Light, an Olin scope phone system for $300. So much other stuff on a giveaway every month. If you give us $3 a month, you get entered into thousands of dollars worth of prizes every single month.
Yeah, like I said, I think organizations like yours are extremely important. We need guys like you having these conversations and engaging the antis or engaging the the middle ground. So keep up the good work, man. Appreciate what you do.
Thank you, my man.
Yeah, and
appreciate
guys, if you're listening, go check out Blood Origins. I highly recommend you guys joining. It's a small way you can help give back to what we love. So thanks again, man.
Cheers, mate.